Okay, it's been a few days since I started the whole dating as a schizoid dating app experience, and we did that whole thing downloading Bumble and Hinge and setting up my profile. So I figure I should give you an update on how that's going. For anyone who's missed what's happening, basically, yeah, I'm trying the dating thing. I'm challenging the whole schizoid thing of not wanting to be in relationships, in part, like, because of the theory that my relationship with my parents has probably screwed me up, caused the schizoid, and if I had healthier relationships, would that undo some of that kind of thing? I don't know. It's complicated. I made a video. I will chuck it, I think, in that corner. I don't know if you want to watch it. Anyway, so yeah, it's been a few days. I have done the matches and talked to a few people and scrolled through things and gotten a vibe. And some of this will be relevant to people other than schizoids, because the first observation is just that guys suck at dating profiles, to the point that I was like, joking with friends like, hey, maybe I should just freelance as like an advisor or a consultant, because, guys need help really setting up these profiles. Some of them are just completely lacking in content. Like, so I've had people suggest that maybe they're abandoned profiles, but a lot of the apps, they try and surface people who are like active now or active today, and it'll actually tell me who's been active lately. And then it tells you when someone's new and they just haven't put effort into their profile before they started swiping and all this kind of thing. So there are some guys who legit put one photo and then maybe they'll list some interests, but I came across one who just had one photo and then just in their about section, all it just said was man. That's it! Nothing else! Nothing to tell me anything about them. So one photo, man, and I'm supposed to judge whether you're a potential relationship. Are you kidding? There was another one who had, 5 interests listed, but that still doesn't tell me very much if you're just giving me that small amount. Like, what? And the second one I paid, the one where it was just the picture and men, I paid a bit more attention. It wasn't even a good picture. So, like, what are you doing? Are you kidding? I guess if you were really, really attractive and some girls are into that and maybe they're that shallow, maybe you'd catch some fish. But, like, seriously, no, you need to fill out your profile and you need to put some effort into it. These guys who do fill it out but only have one-word prompt answers, it's like, really? That's the best you can come up with? I'm not impressed. Maybe it's because, being schizoid, I'm a bit more like stuck in my head and intellectualizing and all that kind of thing. But I think most women who are looking for a dude, and this is sort of a biological thing, generally, women looking for a dude are looking for someone who can provide and who can care for you. They want to know that you're going to put some effort into that instead of just like, if you just put the minimum effort, it makes it look like you're just after a quick fling, and most chicks aren't into that. That's a very male thing to, I know things are different these days and women are more progressive and blah, blah, blah. But when it comes down to like basic biological stuff, you have to take that into account if you're a dude. Like, you can't just put in this minimal effort and like, men, generally speaking, assess women based on looks, because men are much more sexually motivated, and so that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who arouses them, right? Women are, in general, looking for, like, a guy who is a bit more sensitive and isn't going to just, run off, leave you with kids, and disappear. Women need to know a bit more about you. You can't just get by on your looks. You have to have a bit of personality in there. Women tend to be more attracted to personality compared to men in general, generalizing, whatever. Like, this obvious stuff. Cliches and stereotypes exist for a reason, because there are biological realities and biological differences between males and females in general. Obviously, there are some things about me that are a bit more like male-ish, but I can still see like all this kind of thing, and there are also things about me that are still feminine despite my mental illness, whatever, and also having done a lot of reading into psychology and biological shit and all that. Like, it's oh my god, guys, if you're good, I know most of my audience is male, and some of you have had failures on these apps. My first bit of advice is just to put some fucking effort into it. Oh my god. And like, have some decent pictures, not these low quality, low res things. It's 2023. Most of your phone cameras, I know mine's over the top, but like even your basic phone cameras are better than that. There's no excuse for you to have these grainy pictures. And like there was one where like I don't even know what was going on. I tried to ask the guy what was going on, and I think he got embarrassed and never answered. But it looked like he was putting something in his friend's mouth, and his friend was putting something in his mouth, but it was super pixelated and grainy. I'm just like, one, what the fuck is going on there? And two, why did you think this was a good photo to put on your dating profile? You're trying to attract a chick, and you've got this, I don't know what the fuck that was about. So, like, have some sense about it, okay? So, yeah. Basically, the main thing that I've learned is that guys suck at dating profiles. I had it explained to me by a female friend that maybe guys were trying to do this whole thing that works in real life, apparently, where you can kind of seem a bit more mysterious, but they're trying to apply it to like the online scenario, and it just doesn't work in the way that they're expecting. Don't try and be mysterious like that. Try and fill out your profile. Get, I think 6 pictures, nice pictures in different situations without too many of your friends. Like, there's advice on the internet about how to do your dating profile, and I think, I mean, I haven't really dug that far into it, but, some of the stuff that I've seen seems pretty legit. Put some fucking effort into it. Otherwise, how am I supposed to know? Like, a lot of things, if someone put no effort into their profile, it's just like an instant nope. I don't know if these guys ever get matches doing that. Holy shit. Anyway, like, so that's my initial impression. In terms of like the apps themselves, so Hinge versus Bumble, those are the two that we set up on the live stream. I've noticed that Hinge is more time consuming for me as a female. This may not be your experience as a male, but as a female, I mean, I don't really have to do much for guys to be interested. That's just like the biological reality. And I think, guys on these apps, they kind of just click like to everything. And I can kind of tell when someone, on Hinge, like it tells you when someone likes you. And the ones who like my very first photo, the one of me and my dog, the one where I look the most normal, in a mainstream way, I tend to assume that if a guy has liked that photo, chances are he's just clicking like on the first thing for every chick that he comes across. Now, there's a few where maybe they've said, oh, I really like your dog, or, left some other comment, or maybe I've looked through their profile when I've seen the like come up, and I can see that, yeah, there are a lot of things that match what I've put on my profile, so maybe it's legit. But there are plenty where, like, I'll say that I'm there for like a long-term relationship kind of thing, and their thing will say casual, or it'll have, and I did get one come up that was just about feet fetish stuff. I'm like, at least you're honest and upfront about that, but no thank you. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, so the ones that I paid more attention to on Hinge were the guys who liked something else on my profile, so at least I know they scrolled a little bit. It's a bit like I posted in my community tab the Brown M&Ms thing by Van Halen's singer. That's a really good clip to watch. I recommend you go watch it. Go and check out my community tab. It's only like 5 minutes, and it's a great story. He's a great storyteller, and it's also why I used to put mention potatoes when I did my band search ads, so that I knew that people had actually read what I'd written in my ad, because I was tired of getting people saying, like, do you want to be in a pop band? I'm like, no, fuck off. I want to say, I don't know what's worse, the band search thing or the dating thing, because I'm less invested in dating. I wanted to be in a band more. I've got potentially 2 projects now. I've definitely got 1 project that's coming along. Thank God, so I don't have to do band search anymore. Band search is more important to me, so that's been like my hell for the past however long, not being able to find something. But I think it's the same kind of thing, except with a band, you're trying to find 3 or 4 or possibly more people to work with, whereas when you're dating, you're just trying to find 1. I know it's maybe like a bit more serious than band stuff, but it depends on what you value anyway. No, so going through Hinge, the reason it's more time consuming is because I can see the likes that are coming in, and a lot of them are time wasting in my opinion. But yeah, just to get through, because I'm a completionist, I have to get through all of them, and like, yes, no, whatever, mostly no's, and then clear the queue. But sort of if I open the app in the morning, I look at it, there's too many, and I'm just like, okay, I'll leave it for later. And then I come back later and there's more, and I'm just like, oh no, now I have to scroll through even more shit. So that's why Hinge feels more time consuming for me as a female, because there are those guys who'll just like anything. I don't know what it's like as a male. I did have one guy say that he didn't get anything on Hinge. So, yeah, it's probably more of a female thing. I don't know how males experience Hinge. With Bumble, though, what I find difficult about that is because you only match if both of you swipe right. I think the way I remember it is right is like, right? It's like a pun. That's how I've managed to get that right. Haha, right. Yeah. Although I tend to scroll to the bottom because I keep forgetting, like, I usually do the cross or the tick just to make sure. But I've started getting better at swiping left because there's so many that, like, very early on I can tell they're just not even close. Not even close to having a conversation with a lot of these dudes. But yeah, but that's the problem with Bumble, though, because I don't know who likes my stuff until I say I like their stuff. Then there's not a lot of matches coming through because I keep noping people. There's very few that I've said, yeah, okay, maybe I would talk to this person. And that's how I've had to do it. It's not necessarily that I'm like heaps excited by their profile, but it's enough there that I'm like, yeah, I'll have the conversation. But yeah, so Bumble's been less time consuming, so I don't have to go through a whole bunch of people and weed them out, but less is happening exactly because I'm just like, nah, wants kids, nah, wants something casual, nah, has nothing on their profile, nah. Yeah, okay, so that's like the sort of my initial impressions of that stuff. A few other things though, I've noticed with guys, maybe this is just the guys that I'm matching with, I don't know why though, because I put that I'm not that active and so on, but I've noticed a lot of guys think that just posting all their holiday pics is somehow good, and like for me, especially as an introvert, I don't know, just like this guy swanning off all over the world. Presumably he's posting that because he wants a girl to go with him, but it's also like he's not settled down, he's not ready to like take shit seriously, he just wants to like, I'm 35. The young kids can do that, but I don't know, like if I was a female age 35, and particularly the females who want to have kids, they don't want you to be swanning off all over the world because they've got to settle down and have the kids as fast as possible. That's not my situation, but I sort of look at it going like, these guys aren't serious in that similar kind of way. And like also on holiday, the trouble with them taking holiday pics is like they all take the same pics, and so you don't know anything about them as a person except that they like going on holidays. Like if you're a dude on these platforms, like, yes, don't post endless introverted pictures because they don't go down so well, but have some variety. Like, yes, you can show pictures of you going on holiday, but have one like that shows your life. Although, a lot of the life ones haven't impressed me either because a lot of them drink, and just like, that's not my idea of... There was one guy though who wrote on his profile, I don't drink coffee, and so hanging out with friends in cafes, I'll drink tea or apple juice or find some way to justify me being there. And I'm like, yeah, I've had that experience too. That's relatable. So if there's something you do that is a bit different, that's probably worth putting in your profile too. Am I just giving you guys advice? Do you see though why I start thinking that I should just consult for these hopeless males? I mean, I don't even have to be a traditional female to figure this shit out. And if I can figure it out, why can't the guys? I guess, yeah, females. I mean, even though I'm not that socially interested, I still know how to do social media to some degree. And I've noticed a lot of guys suck at social media as well. And coming back to the band thing, I notice a lot of guys in bands, including like friends that I've got, they don't know how to promote their music. And like, my first real band, Wintergaunt, I did all the heavy lifting on promo because they're guys, they just don't know how to promote. And I noticed that's not just their bands, it turns out with them and their relationship potential, they just don't know how to sell themselves to a female. And I just find that so interesting because it's not something I expected. I know guys are less socially aware, and I've picked that up from band stuff as well because I had a band stab me in the back, but I think they did it by accident because they're dudes and they didn't realize that what they were doing would look shit to me and, you know, show that they weren't taking my input seriously and so on and all that. I think they did it by accident, and I think it's just because guys don't understand social shit, and I'm like, I'm someone who's not even social and I can get it. Is it because I'm a chick and I don't know, and they're just not paying attention. Anyway, bit of a rant. Okay, so as for the guys that did have good enough profiles for me to match, or on Hinge, sometimes maybe their profile wasn't really that interesting to me, but if they liked something and left me a message about why they liked it, I matched with them anyway, because, like, at least we can have a conversation. And I'm trying to be open, like, because especially knowing that guys suck at doing these profiles, I'm like, well, maybe there's something there that I can talk to them about, and it's not, they just don't know how to put it in their profile. Also, I guess because I'm not so invested in, like, the ways that females are, like, some females will be looking for specific things. Because I'm not like that, I guess I'm a bit more open to things. Like, if someone's way out the age range, I think for both apps I ended up setting it to, I'm 35, so I set it to like 30 to 40, but I didn't make it a deal breaker, so I can match with people who are older or younger. But I matched with a guy who was 52 because he responded to the one where I talked about, you know, my pretty singing and my death growls, and he was curious and he wanted to hear it, and so I matched with him so I could send my music. And then he was actually really cool. Like I said, look, I honestly don't know if we're a match, but here's my stuff if you're interested, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that he is connected to some kind of, like, you know, community radio station, I think like a student-run thing maybe, and he was telling me, hey, there's this metal thing that you can submit your music to, and I was like, okay, cool, so I've bookmarked that now. I haven't sent anything in because all my music is a bit older, and yeah, I'm just like, you know, if I don't have an active band, should I really be sending it in? I'm not really trying to promote anything at the moment. I could send my solo stuff, but it was metal, whereas my solo stuff is more industrial. I don't know if they'd take it. But yeah, like, that was a conversation that actually went somewhere that could be relevant to me, even if it's not necessarily the relationship thing. So, and like, I mean, his music tastes were kind of like my dad's music taste, which is a bit, but I don't really have the prejudice against age. I think if I'm going to judge someone on age, I'm more likely to be wary if they're younger, especially significantly younger than me. Like, you know, having a 19-year-old like my profile, I was like, yeah, nah, I dated 19-year-olds back when, and they just do not have the maturity, especially males, but, you know, even females at that age, nah. So I think, I don't know if anyone in their 20s, maybe late 20s, but I'm too old for for young people and their bullshit. You know, like, when you're young and older people are like, you'll understand when you're older, and we never believe it until we get older, and then we look back and we're like, shit, the kids are a bit fucked, aren't they? Yeah, so I'm more likely to, and I've when I was really little as well, like, I did tend to find older people easier to talk to, probably because, you know, people who are your same age, they tend to have certain expectations of you, and I guess I never really fit in, so you did used to feel more comfortable with older people, just in terms of conversation. So yeah, you know, a dude being older doesn't bother me. Also, if you think biologically, so this is for, like, the chicks who gold dig, right? There is a biological basis for, like, the young chick, old dude thing, because the old dude presumably has resources, and that's what the female's looking for, whereas the young female has the looks and all that kind of stuff, and the old dudes don't really lose their sex drive in that sort of a way, so they want the young, you know. So there's that kind of thing, and I don't know if maybe there's a subconscious thing where I'm like, yeah, older dude, probably not as bad as much younger dude. Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting thing in terms of matching, like, you know, just having conversation, and, you know, it was good because he wasn't really pushy. I don't think he's responded to my most recent thing, and he probably realizes it doesn't really have anything going for it, although, you know, if we talked more, who knows. But the chatting with matches is tricky, though, because, like, I think everyone knows that we're all assessing each other, and so it's not like a natural conversation you'd have with your friends, and that does make it a little bit weird. And like, what do you say to this person? And so, in some of the conversations, I felt like I was pulling teeth a little bit, and then in other conversations, it never really had anything much going, so it's like kind of slow. The other problem is I don't have notifications on my phone except for like, regular phone calls, text messages, and one app that my family uses that I have no one else on. So only urgent stuff comes as a notification on my phone because I can't deal with it. I don't want to be harassed by the internet at all times of day. So I'm only really checking the app, maybe once or twice a day or, in between doing things. So that's probably my own fault that the conversations don't actually get any legs because I'm not online long enough to really have those more detailed chats. So that's a thing. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think when someone senses that it's not going somewhere, they do kind of withdraw. And then, so mostly like, I've been polite and replied to everything, except then one guy, I had a reason to share, I think I was talking about bands and, that trying to get musicians organized is like herding cats, and I think he made some kind of a joke or comparison, like, I don't know, something. So I think he said something about like cats being in bands. And I found a clip from Stephen Colbert's show where they had the rock cats or something, and so this group tried to train these cats to like, hit things so that like the drums would go off, and there's also like a chicken that pecks at a tambourine or something, but mostly it's cats and they're absolutely useless. There's maybe 2 cats that managed to like press levers enough to make a sound, and the rest, I don't know what the other cats were doing. They're just kind of sitting there like, why am I here? Because they're cats. Anyway, it's kind of cute, right? And it was relevant to the conversation because they're talking about trying to organize musicians. And then he decided to like say something like, maybe there's a pussy pun in there. And I'm like, there it is. There's the sexual content. There was nothing in that video to suggest that we should go that route in terms of talking, and no part of the conversation. Mostly we'd only talked about like he's really into birds, and like great, but I'm kind of tired of hearing about birds. And I've got my Animorphs, and so like most of what I know is about birds is from that, and I mentioned that, talked about that a little bit, and yeah, I think then music, and it sort of turned into that. But I'm just like, I don't know, I need to know more about you than that you like birds. This is a guy who super swiped me. I've only had one super swipe so far, and so I felt like I should be polite and talk. But and a few other things that concern me. I mean, he does look like one of those more goth alternative kinds of guys, but he also looks a little bit overly shy, and most of the pictures are just him with birds or sitting around, and it's like, I don't really, like, that doesn't tell me much about your life. And then what concerns me more, though, is his age and his name make me wonder if he's the same guy that I went on a couple of dates with back in 2014 when I did the RSVP thing, before I got banned for inappropriate username after I reported a guy for stalking me. No, I went on two dates with this guy who had the same name, and I think the age range, like the age that he's got on his profile, is probably right, that it could be the same guy. And I'm bad at recognizing people, but like the hairdo and all that, and probably like the body type as well, makes me think it might be this guy. And the problem with this guy is like halfway through our second, meetup, he just got like really quiet and awkward and wouldn't say anything much. And then like, later messaging's like, you okay? Nothing. So, real mature. I know people can change, but when you've had that experience with someone, and then I'm just like, no. I haven't seen any evidence that it is the same guy, because that guy was obsessed with vampires. But that association's already in my head, and so I'm already like, I don't know about this. And also, doesn't look like he's got a lot of money to bring that up again. I mean, if I was gonna make a good go of this whole like relationshipy thing as a challenge to the schizoid default, I shouldn't just think about money. But I gotta admit that it would be helpful in my life because I'm not really able to look after myself in that way. So it is kind of important. And again, being female and having that biological tendency to go for someone who can provide resources, I'm not outside the realm of what females are looking for there. So there's that. Yeah, I think that's maybe what's been going on so far. I did just match with a guy who looked a bit more promising because he said he's got a job, he's got 2 dogs, they're mandatory in his whole like deal, and I'm like, yes, dogs are that important. And then you scroll down further and he says his personal hell is football. I'm like, finally one of these dudes who isn't obsessed with sport. And then like what the food he picked as the one that he would keep eating was sushi. I can do sushi, sushi's good. Like these days I can eat sushi. When I was younger I didn't, which is a bit embarrassing as a half Japanese chick, but no, I've gone on to the sushi and sashimi thing. I think during the pandemic I started eating it and my mum's like, who are you? I'm like, I don't know who I am. Speaking of though, I think schizoid is not going to be my only difficulty in terms of really making a good go of this experiment, because I have had some conversations with people with friends, and I've also had some weird dreams that remind me of how some of my past relationships were, and it's brought up some of the dissociation stuff because I was not entirely myself in those past relationships, and now when I'm thinking about it again, I'm like, oh shit, because the dissociation hasn't been as much of a problem for me when I've been sitting down in my room, being depressed, not really going anywhere, but as I get more out of the house, like I notice when I go on the bus, often it starts, coming up a bit, but then looking at all this stuff with dudes and then remembering stuff about my past relationships, I am a bit like, oh, maybe that's gonna be an issue for me, but we'll see. I'm gonna talk to my psychologist about it on Friday because, yeah, and I did talk to her, about this whole experiment, like, is this something I should even do, and explains the whole logic of, issues with my parents, maybe that's fed into the sort of childhood development stuff, and I think one of the reasons that my first relationship with my ex, why I tolerated all the gaslighting, might be because I expected that because of subtle shit from my parents that I didn't know my parents were kind of doing to me. Yeah, and just sort of thinking, if I put in the effort, that sort of fake it till you make it thing, is that just masking, or is that potentially a way to rewire my brain out of some of the unhealthy personality disorder issues that I don't feel like I need to change, but logically I can see we're a social species. I'm not meant to be this way. That's the mental illness. So yeah, and I mentioned something to her about like that divide between what I actually feel, which is that I don't want to be in a relationship, versus that logic, that more objective view about I do want to improve my life and fix problems in my life, fix the depression and all these kinds of things. And yeah, so splitting that, what I feel versus what I think, and the logic. And she remarked that it seems like I'm kind of, with a lot of these things in my life, I'm kind of doing schema therapy on myself, which is really interesting because we did touch on schema therapy last year with my previous psychologist. It just didn't really go anywhere, I think, because the categories they have in terms of like the schemas themselves, or whatever you call them, I don't even remember, but like the little categories, I think they were too rigid to describe, me, but maybe the principles of it are what I'm taking and sort of schema therapying myself. So that's kind of interesting, because schema therapy is one of the therapies that has some impact on personality disorders. Now, schizoid doesn't have a lot of research and a lot of us don't even try, so whether or not it works for us, I don't know, but if any therapy is going to stand a chance, one of those ones that does focus on personality disorders and those sort of deep-seated patterns that we have, maybe there's a chance. Anyway, so there's that. Are there any other things to mention? I didn't talk to my psychiatrist about it. I'll go on a separate rant. We might live stream me doing some autism tests because he still thinks that's what I probably have, based on very little. And I honestly think the moment I walked in there, he probably read my paperwork, saw schizoid, and was like, nah, no one has that. because he's dismissed it the entire time. He probably read that and just thought, she's probably just misdiagnosed autism. And then I think that clinic is very, like, I knew they were ADHD focused, but I think they're also autism focused. And so I think the moment I walked in, before he even met me, he probably decided I was autistic. And I'll go on a separate rant about that, and maybe we'll live stream some of those tests, because that could be kind of fun, especially because, like, I hate doing those tests because the questions are often unclear. So you guys can tell me, suggest me what I should click, I guess. That could be another fun thing, because setting up the dating profiles was fun enough, wasn't it? Yeah, anyway. So I didn't talk to my psychiatrist because he's always like, there's so much that I can't tell him. And he's, along with this autism thing, he's also dismissed the dissociation stuff when we haven't even talked about it. And the reason I never raised it with him is because I got a sense very early on that he wasn't going to believe me about any of it. So why talk to him? And he's now saying, oh no, I don't think that's an issue for you, despite us not having addressed it talking. And like, you know, I only see him for half an hour every 6 weeks. How can he know anything about me? You guys watching me and my, like, long rambles would know heaps more about me than this psychiatrist does. Yes, he has training, but he also has his own biases. Anyway, so I didn't tell him, so I didn't get his advice on it. I'm just my psychologist, and I might stop seeing him and just see her. But I'm going to talk to her about the dissociation issue, and maybe I'll talk to her about some of, like, you know, how I've found it so far. But it's just scrolling. I haven't agreed to meet anyone. And there's some, here's another thing. Some of the profiles, they'll say shit like, oh, I don't want to do these online chats. It's better just to meet up in real life and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, cool. I get it, because it's hard to do online chats, and it's hard to really, like, you know, when you can chat. This has happened to me before, is like you've chatted to someone online for a while and you think things are going to be fine, but then you meet them in real life and it's sort of like, oh, no. And so I think some of those guys feel like they're wasting time by chatting, just in text form. And I get it, because, like, you know, that can go on for a while and you don't know if it's moving anywhere. It's probably faster to just meet. But if you're going to put that in your profile, you're giving me negative signals as it is. Plus, I'm a very online person. Maybe not on my phone, but I am on YouTube and Facebook. I usually have Facebook open most of the day if I'm home around the computer, just like in a corner, and, you know, if something comes through, it comes through. But yeah, when a guy says that, I understand where he's coming from, but it's also kind of a red flag that he's impatient and he just wants to get to the ones who put sex positivity as one of their interests. Fuck off, mate. I'm not into that. Like, I get what that's about as well, but it just makes you seem like you want a casual thing, and no, go away. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll give some more updates at some point. Oh, I keep forgetting to post things on Patreon. I've been really busy, so if you have a look at the chaos on my floor and things that I've had to hide and whatever, been really busy. Like, the past 2 weeks, I can't wait till Friday is over, because no, I still have a thing on Sunday. So then Monday, I think, is when I can finally relax, except Monday is Music Monday, so gonna be doing band stuff again. So maybe Tuesday is the day I relax. Oh my god, I just need to, I can't even. I'm gonna go. Good night. Bye.